A moment that once again shook the nation. Questions now swirling about just how effective police reform policies are after Tyre Nichols died after a police beating on January 7th in Memphis. Protests erupted once again, a nation left raw and bitter with the feeling that this keeps happening again and again. George Floyd, Tyre Nichols, so many more. The question now left for police departments to answer, are policies enough?
I just want to make sure everybody understands that we are 100% committed to working with you. To revise policy.
That was Memphis Police Director Mike Rawlings in June of 2020 after George Floyd's murder. The department making a fresh commitment to the community to implement reforms. Leaving a question for every department. Are policies enough? And in the wake of Tyre Nichols' killing, we're seeking answers from our community leaders about what they're doing to ensure that we avoid a similar incident here. And we've invited 3 local police chiefs to join our discussion tonight. Sean Barnes is the chief of the Madison Police Department. David Moore is the Janesville Police Chief, and Andre Sales is the police chief in the city of Beloit. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being here and for braving the weather to be here. We appreciate your time very much. We have to keep in mind, particularly in a week like this, when a police officer lost his life in the city of Milwaukee, that most law enforcement officers do their jobs honestly and courageously. They put their lives on the line every day. But something in Memphis went terribly wrong. From your opinion, in your opinion, what went wrong? And what are you saying? What are the conversations you're having now with the officers in your department in the wake of this incident?
Well, thank you for having me first. You know, this incident to me was like many other incidents that we've seen that really shocked your conscience. And so the officers really are disappointed. The officers who have spoken to me are disappointed by what they saw. We do the best that we can with training, with selection, but what I saw in Memphis was a culture issue. The officers, as you saw, were wearing body-worn cameras, yet it didn't change their behavior because it was something about the culture of that unit or that section or their supervisors that made them think that behavior was okay despite the fact that it was on camera. And so we always say policy is important, but nothing is as important as the culture of your organization. And I believe that starts with the supervisors, and of course it certainly ends with the chief of police.
Chief Moore, we've seen several incidents now on video where 4 or 5 officers are dealing with one person, and there is sort of a mob mentality. And one of the aspects coming out of the Memphis situation is that it appears camaraderie overrode character, and some would say it suffocated character. On the point of culture within a department, on a base level, what are you doing to ensure that that kind of a culture is not allowed in your department?
Thank you. I can tell you that, like all of our agencies here, we have policy in place, we have training in place, but that doesn't assure culture. I will tell you that in Memphis, I'm sure they have policy that says those officers should not have conducted themselves that way, certainly have training, but that didn't change culture. So what we have done to assure that that culture stays in place is we hire people of character, people that care about others, and then bring them into an organization that respects others, respects citizens, and make sure that we are truly protecting our citizens. But then there are 4 things that we do to assure that that continues. First, on every use of force, a sergeant is assigned to investigate that immediately. So every time there was a use of force incident, a sergeant goes to the scene, interviews the officer, interviews the suspect, interviews any witnesses, and we look at the body-worn camera video, and we pass judgment right there if that force was appropriate. Second, with our body-worn cameras, we have a random audit system, so we're checking officers' performance continuously. Next, in our scenario-based training, we have some scenarios that the actor is using excessive force, and in that scenario, the officers responding have to identify the excessive force, stop the use of the excessive force, and report it to a sergeant. And then lastly, we have a group called our Dynamic Training and Policy Group. And this group is a lieutenant, a sergeant, and all of the trainers in our department, be it baton or vehicle contacts, firearms, OC spray, taser. And what we do is we look out throughout the nation for those incidents that are concerning. We've looked at Uvalde, Texas, Akron, Ohio, Los Angeles, California, and now we're assessing Memphis. And what we look at is we identify the issues that occurred there, and then we look at our policy, our training, and our equipment and see what changes we need to make to assure that nothing like that comes to our community.
Chief Sales, you can have all of the technology and tools and training in the world, but police departments move at the speed of trust. What can you say to the people that are watching tonight to ensure to the communities that you serve that a Tyre Nichols style incident will not happen here nor be tolerated here?
I think one of the biggest things is our hiring process, not skipping certain hiring processes to bring in people just because we want to fill a spot. Is making sure that we are not changing the standards that we set for the Beloit Police Department, and that what that means is bringing in guardians, individuals that want to work with our community, from the marginalized communities to the affluent communities, getting those processes in places, understanding that, continuing our training. Every year we do bias training, making sure to understand that there's going to be some implicit biases that we have, but we cannot take those biases with us on the streets. Making sure that our cops understand that. Going back to the 21st century policing, having that procedural justice, making sure that we are giving our individuals and our community members that opportunity to have that voice when we make contact with them, understanding that we showed up to that call. We don't know everything, and we have to give them that opportunity to express what's going on, what occurred prior to us getting there, and giving them the opportunity to speak. They have rights. We got to make sure that we are making sure their rights are not taken advantage by our police officers. Making sure our first line supervisors are out on the street with them. We need that training. My police department has 63% of our police officers have 5 years or less experience. So we want to make sure that our supervisors are supervising it the correct way, making sure that we're developing that culture within our police department to respect people. I'm a person that goes by my first name a lot, and my community members know that. I introduce myself as Andre to them. I want them to know who I am. I want them to know me on a first name basis. And once we make that connection, our community appreciates us, wants to be involved with us, and they're giving us tips on crime that occurred in the city of Beloit.
I wish we had so much more time. This conversation will continue, and I sincerely hope the three of you will continue to be a big part of it in the days that come. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes, Janesville Police Chief David Moore, and Beloit Police Chief Andre Sales. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back. Oh, one thing I want to mention, this conversation continues tomorrow on News 3 Now at 5, and it will also continue Sunday on For the Record. We're following up live tomorrow with two Madison area lawmakers. Shelia Stubbs and Francesca Hong will be our guests. Eric Franke will be asking them the big questions, including if they believe the system itself is at fault. We'll be right back.